you talked about the feminization of men for a second. Was that you or you?
I think we both
we probably
talked
talking about
the
that.
feminization
What's that?
of men.
You brought it up.
I brought that up. You're nodding because I mean, Natalia, do you have a lot of experience with feminine men?
I see a lot of them today. If that's your question.
Like metro type men?
Yeah, you see a little bit more men, more in tune with their emotions, a little bit more open to, I guess, visually even seeing men being more feminine.
Gotcha.
Today.
So if 10 men approach you, you're very approachable, by the way.
Thank you.
Pretty, attractive, and attractive attitude, which is the number one thing about
Nice.
Natalia. Shout out. If 10 men approach you, how many would you say that's a man's man? How many would you say he's like complete beta? And then how many would you say he's kind of a metro? He's like a fluid, more of a guy.
I don't want anyone to come for me, but I would say maybe like 7 to 6 men out of the 10 would be really manly.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I would say.
So that's counterintuitive of what we're learning about here. You're saying that 70% are more manly.
Those are the ones approaching you.
Those are the ones approaching
maybe those are the ones that are approaching.
Approaching me. Now,
so you're saying the more feminine men are probably too scared to approach a pretty girl.
Yes, they're a little bit more scared, and they're just a little like, I feel like today men with like big egos are the ones who are like, ready to approach women. Usually, like, I would say like nice guys, good guys, they're more on that feminine side because they don't want to be like overstep their boundaries in a way. But I think we talked about this, or I watched something the other day. Women like to have like a man approach them. Women like a manly man. Like women don't like, like he's shy, he doesn't want to come talk to me. Like girls don't like that. They want a man. So I feel like, men have taken a step back from doing that. So the femininity has gone up. But yeah, that's just my take.
Well, thank you for sharing, Natalia. So I know you talk about this, the feminization of men, quite a bit. I'd like to open this up for discussion, but let me just read this article. The feminization of men cheats women out of our natural desire to admire strong men. We've talked about this before. Surveys have shown how women today are drowning in a sea of unhappiness despite the progress they've achieved in attaining equality with men, right? Could that be perhaps the reason behind this wave of unhappiness in so many women's lives that arose from the diminishing power of masculine strength? What are your thoughts?
Well, clearly, we've been talking about this for ages. I think that what the most interesting part of this is whenever you see articles like this, it's this plea for men to become more masculine to solve women's problems. It's not about men like benefiting themselves. Like here, build yourself up and be a better dude. Build yourself up, be a better dude because women need you to be a better dude. That's what it's not
Great
about. They could care less about the state of the condition of the guy. They just care about the
guys. Be more manly. We need you.
Women most affected, right?
Wow.
That's the whole thing. Self-improve.
Stop being so selfish, Natalia.
Sorry.
Stop being so damn
I don't know,
selfish.
you see
Man
a
can just be a
man
man
and
for himself.
No, you see a man, you're like, I want to get
I got into this
full
with Jedediah is like we're at a point right now where it's like women are wondering like where the real men at? How come they're not approaching me? Most women that
with Ruslan.
Hello, pull up.
Mostly what they tell me is like they would love for like today the number one way that men and women meet is online. They meet on Tinder, they meet on Hinge, they meet on Bumble. That's simply they don't meet in church, they don't meet friends, they don't meet at school, they don't meet at work, they meet online.
And those are the ones who come out more feminine, believe it or not. They're the ones who are a little bit more like, a little more shy because they won't approach you in person, but over the phone they have all this bold stuff to say.
That was you probably have the stats on this. That was trending in that direction during COVID. Obviously, that accelerated like crazy.
It's through the roof. And again, what I keep saying is like the old order way of thinking about dating. We don't date in happy days anymore. We don't date in like the sock hop and we're going to have a malt after the dance or something.
Jukebox days.
We're going to go stare. We're going to go steady. Yeah, we love the idea. It's romanticized, but that's not how we meet today. And we're 21 years into the 21st century. Wow. But the other thing I was going to say is I hate this kind of shit right here because it is telling men to man up after generations of telling men to man down. So when we say, well, where are the real men at? How come they're not around? And that you want to know why we're having the conversation about should a man cheat or should a man not cheat, or a high value man should have a harem, a soft harem, however they want to do it. It's not because men are going, yeah, man, this is a great idea. I think I'm going to go do this. It's because women can't get the strong alpha guy that they all feel that they're entitled to right now. So they would rather share a high value alpha guy than be saddled with a faithful beta right now, because they don't want that boringness. They can get the benefits of provisioning, protection, and parental investment that the beta used to be able to provide for women, but they do it themselves.
They make their
So
own
how do
money.
you fix it? How do you fix that?
So they
You've
don't-
been
they don't-
influenced
I make my own
years
money.
and
I
years.
do my own. What's the song?
They don't need men, but they want men. Well, okay, what kind of men do they want? Strong, masculine guy who is traditionally, conventionally, evolutionarily is a strong, dominant alpha male.
But my question is, so what things have encouraged men to become that more feminine side, like bring out that more feminine side?
Sedation, first and foremost.
Like what?
Well, pornography is that's the easiest one.
You think watching porn makes a man more feminine?
Absolutely, because it sedates them. They have no reason. There's no incentive to do anything. You want to know why guys are listless and rudderless? Primarily, it's because we have industrialized our forms of sedation. Whether that's porn, whether that's video games, whether that's legalizing marijuana, whatever keeps you in bed and not getting out of bed to actually go do something. Like I can be. Again, we can be the most influential teachers on the internet, and we can say, get out there and go do this and smash in the gates of hell, right? You leave the church or you leave the YouTube or you leave whatever, and you know what? You're right back where you were. It's an extroversion that is actually an introversion. And once you get to that point, if you're still locked into pornography, and I think it's like 68% of Christian men admit to being addicted to pornography.
What?
That is sedation.
That's not very Christ-like.
And that's you want to know if I have a beef against like sedation or against pornography. That's the thing is that if it becomes so consuming that you can't get out of bed in the morning and all you're going to do is just do barely the bare minimum to do what you have to do to survive, that's not living, and that's not prospering, and that's not becoming any better than you are. And then there's also we can talk about the opioid epidemic too, which no one wants to talk. We'll probably talk about it around election time, but that's a huge sedation right now. We legalized marijuana. That's a huge sedation. And people are going to come at me and go, I smoke weed and I'm still no, you're not. Not as much as you would be if you didn't smoke
That's
weed.
true. But
alcoholism, name the sedate food.
So what would your advice be, or what
Stop
would you,
sedating yourself.
Yeah,
well,
well-
how would you reverse that?
Well,
What would you think
let me
is
just
reverse?
before you answer this, let me just what you're saying makes complete sense, because
Yeah.
men used to have to get out of the house and hunt.
Yes.
I'm talking just historically, and then even and before the internet age. Now, pop a pill, smoke some pot, order some DoorDash, jerk off on your phone. Why do I even need to get out of bed anymore? And that's essentially what you're saying. You're sedated.
Well, the other thing is, like, when we talk about the 80-20 rule, and let me clarify this. 100% of women want to get with the top 20% of guys. The 80% that they don't want to get, that they say are unattractive, those are the guys we're talking about right now. Those guys who are like, oh, I don't have a chance. I'm nihilistic, hopeless, black pill doomer. Woe is me. That 80 percentile right there is always been there, and it's always going to be there. So
is it the feminization of men, or is it like just the demasculization of men?
I think the 20th century ease with which we can indulge in our pleasures, whether that's food, whether that's booze, whatever your sedation, your of choice happens to be, whatever that is what is preventing, I would say, most people from actually benefiting and becoming maximizing their potential.
And is it only going to get worse in the metaverse?
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Yeah. Don't plug yourself in.
Yeah. I want to turn it over to you, Ruslan, but you were an athlete.
Yep.
You get out of the house.
Yep.
You work on yourself. You go to church. You're not sitting home and playing video games. You've been very vocal about that.
Yep.
What's your prescription?
I mean, that was a lot of prescriptions there, man. I mean, that's as close as I've heard you
when
come.
People ask me, when people say, "What do you think about like what?" Because I get this all the time. People say, "What advice would you give to your 18-year-old self?"
Yeah.
And it's like, you're not asking me for that. My 18-year-old self would tell me to go fuck off. Okay,
Get out of here, kid! You fucking geek.
I know this. Okay, what they're asking me is, what would you tell to the younger generation? So what do I see? My analysis is this: is that there more guys. We just talked about the Lost Boys generation. More men in this generation, particularly the last half of the millennials and maybe all of Generation Z, are the first generations that have been raised on social media, the first generations that have had you were talking about PlayStation was a big deal in the 90s. Well, imagine you were born in year 2000, you're 22 years old right now, and you've never known a world without a cell phone, without the internet, without social media, without being able to do this, by the way. This is the only time in history we could actually do this. But we take it for granted. I mean, I come from a generation that's prior to all this, so I kind of can sort of get the balance of this. But you have to remember that the generations that have been acculturated and socialized in that environment, they have no frame of reference of anything that was before that. So it seems natural to them, like, I'm going to smoke weed, and I'm going to be sedated, and I'm going to do that. Me looking at this from sort of this God's eye third-person view, I go, okay, stop sedating yourself, or it doesn't matter what I say or what tools I give you. Get out. That's pragmatic advice. If it's advice, here's what you need to do. Get out of bed. Stop sedating yourself. Get up and go.
Yeah, I think everything he said, I think could be defined in a simple phrase. And I tell my son this all the time: if you do what is easy, your life will be hard. If you do what is hard, your life will be easy.
So if you like that clip, click right here to watch another. Or if you want to watch the entire Saucecast, click right here.